On this Wednesday night, a new contender in the Conservative leadership race. Peter MacKay jumps in to take over from Andrew Scheer.
He has been planning for this for quite some time.
Who else is in? Who is a maybe? And what strings are former leader Stephen Harper pulling behind the scenes? Global News exclusive astonishing documents reveal evidence of sexual slavery, child abuse, and corruption within BC casinos. Cold and crippling, the Vancouver area gets slapped with a major snowstorm. And surprise! What happened when Meghan dropped by a women's center? Plus, when life is like a box of chocolates.
This country has given me an opportunity.
Sweet dreams come true for a Syrian refugee.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. We begin with the future of the federal Conservative Party. A high-profile contender has entered the race to become the next leader. Nova Scotia's Peter MacKay kept his announcement brief. Just 4 words on Twitter: "I'm in, stay tuned." MacKay, a lawyer and former federal cabinet minister, isn't expected to be the only one in the running. But who else is in depends in part on who is not. The biggest question is around Rona Ambrose, who served as interim leader before Andrew Scheer took over. She's widely considered to be unbeatable if she runs. Mike Couteur is in Ottawa tonight. Mike, tell us what we know and what we don't know.
Well, Donna, a number of Conservatives have dipped their toes in the pool, but you'd have to consider this announcement as a huge splash. Now, also making waves are the people in the MacKay camp, and they include campaign organizers who helped Maxime Bernier's leadership bid and Doug Ford's election in Ontario. Now, the people aren't household names, but they do carry weight in Conservative circles and are a clear indication that MacKay is in it to win it. Now, sources are telling Global News that former Progressive Conservative leader and former Premier of Quebec, Jean Charest, is still considering a run at the top job. But today, at least one Conservative strategist says MacKay has the early advantage.
Look, there's always a lot of expectations when a candidate announces, but how they run their campaign, can they catch fire, can they catch imagination beyond simply name recognition? That will be what the Conservatives are looking for over the next 5-6 months.
And Donna, as you mentioned, one wild card in all of this is Rona Ambrose. There have been reports that the former interim leader is not running, but a source close to her tells us Ambrose simply hasn't made up her mind just yet.
And Mike, there's some news today about former Prime Minister Stephen Harper, who's still heavily involved in the party behind the scenes. He's resigned from the board that fundraises for the party. Why?
Well, Donna, one Conservative source has told us that Harper was already planning to leave the Conservative fund well before the fall election. We do know that he was unhappy when we broke that story that the fund was paying for the tuition for some of Andrew Scheer's children. But here's the significance of all of this. Now that he's left the fund, Harper will be free to get involved in the leadership race if he wants. And as someone who continues to have a great deal of influence within the Conservative Party, Harper may just want to help shape the leadership of the future. Donna?
All right, Mike Couteur in Ottawa, thanks. Some stunning revelations tonight from a Global News investigation in BC. A special RCMP unit looking into illegal gaming discovered all kinds of evidence of illegal activity involving organized crime and money laundering. Even allegations women with gambling debts were forced to be sex workers. Instead of taking that evidence further, the special police unit was deemed ineffective and was disbanded. After extensive freedom of information requests, Global News obtained a report that was written before the unit was shut down. And as Jean Waugh explains, it contains a catalog of explosive allegations that experts believe were ignored.
One individual has been charged in regards to her homicide,
murder, forced prostitution, even child kidnapping. As police investigators connected the criminal dots, many led them to BC casinos.
We need to have questions answered. How far did this go?
The list of horrifying criminal allegations, all documented in a January 2009 police report obtained by Global News.
This goes further than a public inquiry into money laundering. I'm sorry, this is very, very serious.
The report was written by the BC RCMP's Anti-Illegal Gambling Unit, IGET. Their purpose to push the provincial government for more resources and a reach beyond underground gaming houses. BC Solicitor General at the time, Rich Coleman, came to another conclusion soon after shutting down IGET for being ineffective.
The province's most senior law enforcement officer not only turned a blind eye to this report, but immediately actively shut down the policing unit that was bringing this to his attention.
One of the most concerning allegations in this report that someone connected to Asian organized crime was allowed to buy into a BC casino. It also alleges that the regulatory investigator knew about these connections and still let the deal go through. Rich Coleman refused to be interviewed, only providing a statement. As minister, I carried out my fiduciary and legal duties, and to insinuate otherwise would be incorrect.
You find out that nothing has been done until maybe a couple of years ago when all of this information was brought out publicly.
The report also outlines outrageous examples of possible casino money laundering, red flagged about a decade before the problem hit its peak in this province. One subject buying $4.8 million in casino chips over 5 years. Another purchasing nearly $3.3 million in chips in just 1 year.
You have to question what actions did regulators, police, politicians take.
Former Crown Prosecutor Sandy Garasino says this report kills any notion government naively thought money laundering was a victimless crime.
And Mr. Coleman kept saying, oh, nothing to see here. That report is absolutely is the nail in the coffin on any argument that he didn't know.
Coleman would eventually replace IGET with another task force, but not until April of 2016, leaving many to wonder what horrific crimes were committed, with no one connecting the dots. John Hua, Global News.
The investigative reporter who broke this story 4 years ago and continues to dig into it is Global's Sam Cooper. Sam joins me from Ottawa. This RCMP report contains stunning allegations, and the BC government was aware of them a decade ago. Have there been any repercussions for anyone involved?
No, Donna, there really hasn't. Since this 2009 report, the money laundering only got worse. There's been no accountability from the government, the casino operators, the criminal gains. There's been no reckoning for the ones involved directly in the money laundering. But we have a money laundering inquiry coming up this year in BC. Its mandate is to probe whether corruption enabled this scandal to occur. And what we've just revealed, it will have to be part of that inquiry's questioning.
Certainly lots of questions. Sam Cooper in Ottawa, thanks.
Thank you.
A moment of silence swept over several Canadian universities today in honor of the 176 lives lost when 2 Iranian missiles shot down Flight 752. It was 1 week ago that families across this country heard the devastating news. 57 of those who died were Canadian citizens. Many of them were teachers or students at universities across the country. And at Ottawa's Carleton University today, among those who paid tribute was a 13-year-old. His father, a graduate from Carleton, was on board the plane.
He was amazing. And we loved each other. And I still can't believe it. I feel like I'm dreaming. But I know that if I was dreaming, and that if he woke me up, he'd tell me that it's gonna be okay.
The families still deserve so many answers and need to be able to bring the bodies of their loved ones home. As Redmond Shannon explains, that is going to take some time and could be complicated.
Remembering the victims of Flight 752, this memorial on the streets of Tehran also includes a photo of Qasem Soleimani, the commander killed by a US airstrike 5 days before an Iranian missile downed the passenger jet. The bodies of all 57 Canadians killed remain in Iran, and there are concerns some victims may not be repatriated to Canada as Iran does not recognise dual citizenship. This video is believed to be the mother of a victim pleading for help from the Canadian government.
A Canadian is a Canadian is a Canadian, and they are entitled to all the rights that Canadian citizens have, and we will do our utmost to make sure that those rights are accorded to them.
A meeting in the UK on Thursday is designed to coordinate international efforts on repatriation, compensation and accountability.
The President Rouhani has made some comments to the effect that they want to cooperate, but of course the question on everybody's mind is, will they deliver on that promise?
Even the Iranian government is now acknowledging it is facing growing anger from its own people after admitting its missiles shot down the jet.
People make mistakes, unforgivable mistakes, but it happened in the time of a crisis. We need to make sure that these crises will be prevented.
On the defensive, Iran's foreign minister says, meanwhile, the Iran nuclear deal is not dead yet. This Iranian journalist told Global News many Iranians will not be satisfied if the government simply scapegoats a minor military figure. He says Iran has a diverse range of views, but many people in the country are united in their outrage, and the regime is worried. On Thursday, Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister François-Philippe Champagne will be joined here at Canada House in London by his counterparts from Afghanistan, Sweden, the UK and Ukraine. The ministers will aim to devise a strategy on the best way to find out exactly how and why this tragedy occurred and how to provide justice for the victims' families. Donna?
Redmond Shannon in London, thanks. Some kind of political shakeup is underway in Russia, all of it managed by President Vladimir Putin. The Prime Minister, Dmitry Medvedev, and his entire cabinet have resigned. The surprise move came after Putin proposed a series of constitutional changes. It's not clear how it will all play out, but it's thought Putin, who controls everything in Russia, is setting the stage to stay in power beyond 2024 when his term is up. He said today the changes revealed in an address to the nation would be good for Russia. Putin has held the reins of power as president or prime minister ever since Boris Yeltsin resigned in 1999. And in Washington, the next step is taking place in the impeachment of President Donald Trump. Inside the U.S. Capitol, the articles of impeachment have been hand-delivered from the House to the Senate. That paves the way for a trial to begin on Tuesday, with senators serving as jurors. House Democrats appointed 7 impeachment managers to argue their case that President Trump should be removed from office over his efforts to pressure Ukraine to dig up dirt on his political rivals ahead of the 2020 election.
The emphasis is making the strongest possible case to protect and defend our Constitution, to seek the truth for the American people.
We already know at the end of this, Trump won't be removed from office, though. The Republicans have a majority in the Senate who will prevent that. But there could be some surprises along the way, including who shows up to testify. There's outrage tonight after evidence emerged President Trump's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, may have carried out surveillance of the former U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, Marie Yovanovitch. Yovanovitch, who was known for her efforts to combat corruption in Ukraine, was fired by President Trump last May, allegedly because she was a roadblock in Trump's desire to have Ukraine investigate Democrat Joe Biden and his son Hunter. Yovanovitch testified in the House impeachment hearings that she was the victim of what she called a smear campaign and that Giuliani tried to undermine her standing in Kyiv. When snow brings cities to a standstill, coming up, the mess and misery in BC's Lower Mainland, plus a heart-stopping moment on a Canadian highway. And who's behind it?
Heavy snow and wind lashing parts of southern BC, leading to dangerous driving conditions.
Just a combination of unprepared drivers, spin-outs, and then once everybody stops, that's it.
Also making public transit a nightmare, with snow and freezing temperatures causing commuter train doors to malfunction, forcing staff to use creative tools to clear the way for hundreds of passengers lined up in the cold, some for hours.
It's not going at all well. No? Waited 50 minutes, and they closed the SkyTrain station down, sent everybody home.
Grew up in Winnipeg, boys. You'll know what snow day is all about.
I'm from New York, so this is nothing.
This may not seem like a lot of snow for the rest of Canada, but here in southern BC, many communities just aren't used to this kind of weather. Resources to deal with the snow are limited, and the many hills and mountain roads make conditions even more difficult. While riders and drivers are dreading more delays, it's a dream come true for students, with entire school districts shutting down. Whether on foot, ski, or toboggan, people are finding new ways to get around and clear out roads, streets, and footpaths as homeless advocates are trying to keep people safe from the elements.
We have activated our warming centers. We have 4 sites open tonight.
More snow is on the way, and BC drivers, especially those who don't have proper tires, are being urged to avoid the roads altogether if they can. Neetu Garcha, Global News.
A deep freeze has set in across a huge swath of Western Canada tonight, and Arctic blasts sent temperatures plummeting way below freezing. Extreme cold warnings are in effect for Northern Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, all of Alberta, and most of BC. The worst is Alberta. Temperatures there have dropped as low as minus 48 degrees. With the wind chill, it feels more like minus 50. Edmonton woke up to minus 37. Calgary, minus 32. The extreme cold conditions are expected to last throughout the week, and people are being told to limit the time they spend outdoors. Ahead, Meghan makes a special visit to Vancouver. We'll tell you where she went.
You're watching Global National.
Much has been said and written about Harry and Meghan wanting to step back as full-time royals. And yesterday, Meghan surprised everyone by making a low-key visit to one of Canada's poorest neighborhoods. She met with staff at a women's centre in Vancouver's downtown east side. Robin Gill reveals what happened.
Vancouver's downtown east side is notorious for its homelessness and rampant drug use. This is where the Duchess of Sussex decided to pay a spontaneous low-key visit to a women's centre. Meghan had a lot of questions about how the centre helps the marginalized.
Unfortunately, often when there is attention on this community or on our organization, it's not for a good reason, it's for a sad reason.
The Duchess was on a research mission and stayed away from talk of her royal position. But her Sussex status will have sway in Canada and is a sign she's moving on from the discord with the royal family.
It instantly signals that this is not about petty family divisions, but this is really about being able to focus on work, concentrate on work that is found to be meaningful.
Both the Duke and Duchess now have an opportunity to be global ambassadors based in this country, according to this Royal Observer.
There is a golden opportunity here to have them as these sort of diplomats, the supreme diplomats for the Commonwealth, as headquartered in Canada instead of over in the United Kingdom.
In 2016, in another royal visit, Kate and William came to the same Vancouver neighborhood and met with young mothers struggling with substance abuse. Despite leaving London behind for now, Meghan is continuing the royal tradition of helping charities in Canada.
The focus still, I think, for the royal family is to work very hard and to work in contributing to society as much as they can.
For the Women's Centre, it's not unwanted attention.
She did shine a light and she did bring attention to the Women's Centre and, what we do to support women every day.
Because in this part of the world, the situation is desperate. Robin Gill, Global News, Vancouver.
Next, Canada's sweet-toothed new citizen.
Clock strikes upon the hour and the sun begins to fade.
That is Whitney Houston. She's been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. For the first time since 2001, 7 musicians are being honored posthumously. They include Notorious B.I.G., Depeche Mode, and the California rock group, the Doobie Brothers. Well, it's been over 4 years since Canada took in 25,000 refugees from Syria. Tarek Haddad was among them. His family had a business making chocolates in Syria, but when their factory was bombed, they were forced to flee. They lost everything. And when they arrived in Nova Scotia, putting down roots meant reopening that business. Today, Haddad accomplished another dream. He became a Canadian citizen. Ross Lord reports.
Tarek Haddad.
Even among dozens of grateful immigrants being sworn in as new Canadians, Tarek Haddad's journey is remarkable.
I think this country has given me an opportunity, a chance, and I'm so proud to see so many people reflecting on our story as a success for immigration in this country.
I swear that I will be faithful. These moments were unimaginable 5 years ago, when his family's chocolate factory in Syria was destroyed by a bomb, forcing him and his family to live in a refugee camp. The chocolate company he started in Nova Scotia, called Peace by Chocolate, got a shout-out from Prime Minister Trudeau at a United Nations conference. Ever since, business has grown. Haddad's workforce has doubled from 10 to 20, and his chocolates have found buyers all over the world. He's selling a product by selling a message that unity among different cultures and different countries is possible.
I am a proud ambassador, and you see, this is my honor that I will have it framed in my heart and framed on my wall in my room to remember every day how proud I am.
The federal government suggests Haddad is an example of how immigration is supposed to work, noting he's among 70,000 Syrian refugees who've entered Canada. Other members of the Haddad family are working to attain their Canadian citizenship in coming months.
Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Ross Lord, Global News, Halifax.
Such a great story. And that is Global National for this Wednesday. I'm Donna Friesen. Tonight's Your Canada is Grand Etang, Nova Scotia. We'd love to see Your Canada. Please email it to us. And thanks for watching. Hope to see you here again tomorrow. Bye-bye.